Hey everyone, this is Disc Junkie and welcome to another unboxing video. Today we're going to be taking a closer look at a bootleg release of Alien 3 The Legacy Cut on 4K Blu-ray. Now before getting to talking about this particular release, I want to give a bit of a brief history of the Legacy Cut, just so you are familiar with it. And to sum it all up, the Legacy Cut is a really cool passion project from the people over at a34k.net. I will leave a link for this website in the video description. And they have essentially created a fan edit through years and years of work where they basically restore Alien 3 and convert it into 4K. And they've also worked extensively to actually improve on the special effects in this movie. And there's a whole lot of info about this on their YouTube channel and on their website. You can read about it. And I just want to say that I absolutely loved the Legacy Cut. I thought it was a vast improvement, and I've also made a video where I talk about this sort of particular version of Alien 3 and why I think it's so good, so you can find the link to that in the video description as well. But with all that said, I just want to make it very clear that if you just want to watch this movie, you can actually go to a34k.net, send them an email, and they will mail you the 4K source files for free, so you can watch them on your computer. And so also it's very important to note that this physical release is a bootleg release which was not created by the people who created this fan edit. And I want to make that very clear because I don't want this video to come off as some sort of criticism towards the people who made the fan edit, because that is definitely not what I want to do. However, I'm pretty sure this video will become a bit of a rant about this particular physical release, which was created by a third party. I essentially bought this from an online store, quote unquote, which is called Showtown Apparel and More. And I'm quite honestly not sure if I will leave a link for this store in the video description, because I don't really want to promote them. And I will get back to why that is later in the video. But for starters, I thought we'd just take a quick look at the physical release to get sort of an idea of what the quality is like. And so this comes presented in your standard 4K Blu-ray keep case. It is very much a regular case, no issues there. And when it comes to the cover art, this is also something that was actually produced by a34k.net. So Showtown Apparel doesn't really have anything to do with this cover design. So it is a great cover design. The cover design looks really good overall, but this was not created by the store. I just want to make that clear that this is also entirely a34k's doing. Turning this over, we have the spine, just says Alien 3 The Legacy Cut. Got a bit of an Ultra HD logo down there. Then on the back, just moving for a closer look at this. And I would say that the print quality is good. I don't really have any issues with the overall quality of this physical release. Here you can also see some of the specs, and I will mention that these are actually incorrect. You can see that, for example, it says subtitles English, whereas this release actually does have English and Spanish subtitles. So it's pretty clear that Showtown Apparel simply printed the already existing artwork which a34k had made for this release. And with that said, I do definitely want to underline that the overall quality of this insert is very professional. I mean, this is about as good as you're going to get on a sort of physical print. I don't think this has any sort of bootleggish aspect about them. It is very sort of, you know, it feels like an official release. It's actually very good. Maybe it's a bit overly glossy. I don't really know what this was printed on. So potentially with time, you know, if this turns into worse state, I can't really tell. But, you know, upon first glance, I do think it is actually quite a high quality product in terms of the insert. Maybe a bit overly glossy. I don't know if this will sort of get stuck to the plastic eventually, which is something that tends to happen on some of these homemade releases. But I'm not going to judge this too harshly because, you know, my first impression is definitely that this is a very professionally produced release in terms of the case and in terms of the insert. I don't really have any problems with that. So yeah, good job so far, I suppose. But then we get to the actual discs, and this is a 2-disc set. It comes with a 4K disc. Just take a closer look at that. And then you also have your standard Blu-ray disc. So there is a closer look at that. Now the 4K disc is 4K, so this is essentially region free. You can play this on any 4K player, while the Blu-ray disc is actually region A, so you will need an American player to play this disc. And I actually have a region free Blu-ray player, which I picked up recently, so I was able to do that. But with all that said, I still had some issues with the actual playing of this disc, which we're gonna get back to. Now, as far as the quality of this disc, I think that the overall print is, I mean, if you look at the disc art, I think it could have been a little bit higher contrast or a bit darker. Now it sort of looks a bit washed up. Just generally, it feels like the blacks are not really black. They're sort of a very sort of light, dark, or where sort of dark gray, like it isn't really as black. I mean, even looking at the cover, it feels like the cover is more black than the discs are. So generally, I'm just a bit iffy about the actual disc art. I think this print might not be the best in terms of the color, but as far as the actual detail of the print, there's really no issue with it. And I can also mention that the disc art as well is something created by A34K.net, the people who made the fan edit. So once again, this is not the product of Showtown Apparel, so don't really want any sort of praise for them in terms of creating a good artwork, because this is not something they actually created. They just printed this, and in terms of the color, didn't do the best job in my opinion. So with all that said, this is what you'll get if you're talking about the physical aspects of this release. Now I do want to mention the discs specifically. So next up I want to take some time to actually show you the menu system, but please bear in mind that this has literally been me recording the TV screen with my iPhone, so please don't judge this based on the picture quality. I'm just doing this to be able to show you the general layout of the menu system, and the picture quality is actually perfect. It's just what you would expect from an official release. Now when it comes to the menu system, I do actually have some issues with this, and looking at the 4K disc firstly, you can see that this essentially just has play, scenes and setup, and if I move into scenes, all of the thumbnails for the scenes are actually static, and they are also identical, which pretty much renders this entire chapter index obsolete, because you can't really tell what scene you are selecting. Now I will say that the chapter index does work, so if I actually select a scene, it will take me to that point in the movie, but once again, it's a guessing game, so then I might be jumping through the scenes with the remote instead. Now moving over to the setup menu, you have an audio and a subtitle option here, and I will say that both of these discs also include an audio commentary track by Oliver Harper and Rob Hill, and this is something that was originally included in the Alien Quadrilogy box set for the assembly cut, so it's actually not a specific commentary on the legacy cut. They simply added this as a bonus feature, and this was actually done with the blessing of both Harper and Hill, and this is also something that was done in reference to A34K.net and the creation of the legacy cut, and doesn't really have anything to do with Showtown Apparel, but they did include this, seeing as it was included in the package that you could get from free if you just contacted A34K.net. And in regards to the subtitle menu, this has English and Spanish subtitles like I mentioned, even though the Spanish is not mentioned on the cover art. And this is pretty much it as far as the 4K disc goes, so let's just switch over to the Blu-ray disc. And this is a bit more animated than the 4K disc. You can see that we have a different menu system, and this one actually includes a working chapter index, which is obviously a big plus, and for that reason I actually prefer the Blu-ray disc in terms of the content. And next up we got the subtitle menu, which features optional English and Spanish subtitles, same as the 4K disc. Moving over to the audio menu, this features pretty much the same options as the 4K disc, except of course for the True HD 5.1 soundtrack, which is only available on the 4K disc. But aside from the overall quality of the transfer, the main difference between the two discs is also the special features, because the Blu-ray disc does actually include a trailer option. And this is also something that was included in the bundle that you could get for free from A34K.net. And so this is not something that Showtime Apparel put together, it is literally from the same source as the original transfer. And this is actually not a sort of fan edit trailer, but rather some original trailers which were just recently discovered and have essentially been remastered for this release by A34K.net. Now, before we exit the menu, there's one more thing I do want to talk about, and that is the pop-up menu system. So if you play the movie on the Blu-ray disc, there is actually a pop-up menu feature, which I thought was a pleasant surprise. However, if you click any of the options like selecting new subtitles and audio, this essentially brings you back to the main menu, which means once again that, well, the pop-up menu isn't really working like intended and thus is pretty pointless. And if we're going to compare this to the 4K disc doesn't actually have a pop-up menu at all. So once again, I don't know, I just think that both of these discs are generally lacking in terms of the production value, even though the transfer itself is pretty perfect. But once again, this is all because of the work that A34K did on the transfer and not so much the lack of work that Showtime Apparel did on the actual production of this bootleg disc. And so at this point, I'm actually going to launch into a bit of a rant to essentially tell you why I don't think you should be buying this from Showtime Apparel. And I'm actually going to switch over to handheld for this one. And so I'm going to tell you right off the bat that if I had received this product without any issues, I would probably have been pretty happy with it. I mean, I gotta say that it's not a bad bootleg. It's actually pretty high quality. But the thing is that this wasn't just something that I ordered and then I got it and that was the end of it. No. Basically, the whole thing started when this arrived to Swedish Customs. And then I was essentially informed that I had to pay an import fee. And this is pretty expected. You do this on all kinds of imports, so it's not really a big deal. But I was sort of expecting this to cost something like maybe $20, at the most. But instead I was hit with something like $32. And I just thought it weird that I was paying roughly $12 above what I would expect, because I'm, pretty well versed when it comes to these import fees. And so I actually ended up calling customs, and they sort of clarified to me what the issue was. And as it turned out, the seller had essentially declared this with the wrong tariff number. Now, if you don't know about tariff numbers, this is essentially like a product identification code. So you will have a specific number for DVDs and Blu-rays, you will have another one for underpants and another one for a bicycle. Like each product type has their own unique tariff number, and that's what sort of identifies what the item is. And so what the seller had done is that he had declared this with a tariff number that essentially is used for radio antennas and or electronic machines. So, I mean, this could potentially be used for a DVD player, but not really for a DVD disc. And so this was clearly a mistake on his part. And so I decided to contact him and just tell him about this. And I also noticed beforehand that there was an issue with the 4K disc. And this was the fact that, the chapter index thumbnails were static, like you just saw in the video previously. And so I informed him about these two things and sort of told him that, seems like you have made a mistake on the tariff number, and I sort of laid it down, all the things like this is the right one, this is the wrong one, and this means that I will have to pay more import fees, and I will have to pay something called chemical tax on electronic devices, because it's a machine that you've declared it as, and that's why that happens. And so, yeah, I was very sort of blunt about everything and told them I'd talk to customs and all that. And then I get this very sort of unprofessional looking response. First of all, it's like all lower caps. There's not a hello, there's not a name, there's not a best regards. Very sort of unprofessional in my mind. And he basically tells me that this has never really happened before. He hasn't really had any issues with other customers who bought this, who say that they've had to pay more than they should. And so he basically just writes this off as, I don't know what happened, and not really my issue. And he also says that he had sort of checked with his shipping company what sort of tariff number they used and yada yada yada. But he doesn't really take any responsibility. He doesn't even comment on the fact that I've been overcharged by $12. And so I'm sort of asking, like, could you reimburse me for this? And there's no comment about this. He just blindly ignores that. So I write another email where I sort of push him, saying like, well, even if you handed this off to a shipping agent and they filled in the form or whatever, it's still your responsibility as a seller to declare this correctly or ensure that someone else does. If there is a mistake on the customs form, you are responsible because you are the shipper. It's your obligation to make sure that this is correct. And so then I just don't hear anything. He essentially starts ghosting me at this point. And I just feel like, okay, it's $12 extra. I was gonna be paying roughly $63 in total to get this if it had been handled correctly. But on account of the incorrect tariff code, I'm now paying something like $75 in total, like roughly $12 more. I'm like, yeah, sure, it's a high price, but at the same time, I got it and I'm happy with the release in general. So maybe just forget about this, because it's just going to be a whole lot of energy wasted on trying to get him to pay this $12, which he obviously doesn't want to do. So I just figured I left it there. But then I was planning to shoot this review, and that's when I realized that, oh, I should probably check the Blu-ray disc as well, because I hadn't really done this. And then when I'm trying to play the Blu-ray disc, I realized that none of my Blu-ray players can actually accept this disc. They just pop up saying a message that I cannot read. And I have quite a few Blu-ray players, so I'm trying them several ones, and none of the players can actually read the disc. So I'm really confused as to what's going on. But then I realized that, oh, I can actually have this and test it in my 4K player, because 4K players are reverse compatible, meaning they can also play Blu-rays and DVDs. And so I popped this into my 4K player, and would you know it, the 4K player can read the Blu-ray disc. But not only that, it also identifies the Blu-ray disc as a 4K disc. So this literally means that the seller has accidentally taken a 4K disc, formatted it as a 4K disc, and then accidentally labeled it as the Blu-ray disc with a Blu-ray disc art. And I'm like, okay, so now I have a bigger issue. Now I have a 4K or a Blu-ray disc. Oh, so confusing. Now I have a Blu-ray disc which I can't play because it's essentially a 4K disc, or well, I can play it, but it's the wrong disc. Jesus. Okay. So I write him back, I explain this whole issue, sort of like, okay, this is me again, and I've now had time to go through this in more detail. Apparently, you have misformatted the discs, and sort of explaining the whole thing. And then he writes back, fairly fast, but still very sort of bluntly. I think it's like a one-sentence response where he just says, like, send me pictures of the 2 menus and the 2 disc arts. Like, not even a hello, not even a best regards, not even anything. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to do that, but I'm going to do something better, because if I just send him pictures, this could easily be fake. Like, I could just send him the same screenshot and say, oh, this is from 2 discs. But no, I'm not going to do that. So I send him a video very clearly showing him, like, this is the Blu-ray disc, popping disc into the player. Here's the 4K disc, doing the same thing, and sort of showing how the menus interact and whatever. So sending that back, and also trying to push for it. It's like, what can we do? Can I get a replacement disc or whatever? And he writes back to confirm that, oh, this is actually our issue. I'm sorry about this. And we will obviously send you a replacement disc free of charge. And now he also brings up the fact that I asked about a $12 refund previously, which he has not really commented on before. But all of a sudden, this is interesting to him. So now he says, also in regards to your previous question about the $12 refund, I can't refund you any money, but I can offer you a $12 sort of discount or store credit for future purposes. And I'm feeling like, okay, well, this is good. And so I figured I'm going to write him back directly. So I write him back within 2 hours of receiving this email, where I just tell him, a store credit would be fine. However, would you please hold off on shipping me the replacement disc so I can check in the store to see if there's anything I want? Because in that way you can combine the shipping to me with both of these products, and then I won't have to pay a double import fee, because every time I get a package I'm going to have to pay another import fee, which roughly means $10 to $15. To just get the replacement disc, I'm going to have to pay this again, even if it's free. And it's like, with that standard, I'm going to be paying something like $90 just to get the disc that I ordered. So yeah, I just asked him to hold off. I don't get any response. And then after 2 more days, so that's 2 days and 2 hours after receiving the info that I was going to get a replacement, I have checked the website, and I'm now telling them that, you know what, I found a product. It's roughly $24 US, so it's more than what the store credit was worth and what I was originally overcharged with. However, it would be very nice if you included a free copy of this sort of $24 movie with my replacement disc, because, I mean, after all, I will be paying another $10 to $15 in import fees when I get this. And also, this means that I will roughly be paying like $90 to get the product that I originally ordered. And the reason for all of this is because you made a mistake on the formatting as well as on the declaration tariff number thing. And then I get a response from him, which just feels like this is just such a terrible way to handle customers. And so now he says that, I've already sent your replacement disc. Okay, so fine, so that's one thing. But then he also says like, and I'm not going to give you any higher store credit, because if I give you a store credit, then I'll have to give a store credit to everyone. And also, I can't be sure that this whole tariff thing actually happened. I don't have any proof that you've been overcharged. And I'm like, what the hell is going on? And he also goes on to write like, and why should I be paying shipping for another replacement of store credit because I've done nothing wrong? And I'm like, wait, what? Excuse me? It's like the only person in this whole equation that's done something wrong is you. You have literally confirmed that you made a mistake on formatting the disk. We have clearly established that the declaration code is wrong. You can't really dispute that. And it's like, what planet are you living on? And the store credit, like, you brought this up. You're the person who suggested the store credit, and now you're rambling about the fact that if I'm offering you a store credit, I'm gonna have to offer it to everybody. So why did you offer it to me? It's like, nothing makes sense, and everything, lower caps, not a hello, it's so unprofessional. And so I write him back because I realized at this point that this guy is not gonna help me. He's not gonna refund me the $12. Like, why are we even arguing about $12? It's like, I can't even believe where this guy's coming from. So I just write him back very politely through all my emails. I'm super polite about this. And I'm just telling him like, well, hello there, sir, whatever. I don't remember exactly. And it's like, I'm sorry we couldn't reach an agreement. I feel that, I can understand now that you've shipped the replacement that this is going to be a bigger issue for you. If you ship another one to me, I know that's going to cost money. But at the same time, it's not just you who are losing money. I know you're losing money on shipping me items, but at the same time, this is because of your mistake, which we have established. And I'm also going to be losing money on this. I literally have to pay something like $90, given that I have to pay another import fee getting the replacement disc. And this is an item which was going to cost me $63 originally. So yeah, that's quite a step up based on your mistakes. And I just tell him like, I'm probably not going to buy from you again, and I'm sorry we couldn't reach an agreement. But regardless of which, just send me the tracking number for my replacement and you won't have to bother with me again. And yeah, I get no response to that either. Big surprise. But what is surprising is that about a week later, I think, I actually get my replacement disc. And wouldn't you know it, this is like a 1 in a million shot. The replacement discs actually arrive without any import fees. And you might think this is not a big deal, but to me, I have been buying stuff for so many years now. I've gotten replacements from all kinds of people and all kinds of companies, and I always get hit with import fees because technically you're always supposed to pay an import fee, even on replacements. But somehow this got through the cracks. I don't know what happened. Maybe this is because he used a very sort of cheap mode of shipping, which doesn't even have tracking. That's why he didn't give me a tracking number. I don't know. But it arrived in a plain envelope. I got it. It works. So I have finally received a complete copy of what I originally ordered. And I was overcharged by $12, which I was obviously never going to see again on account of this very unprofessional customer service at Showtime Apparel. And, you might think that this is not, I'm sort of blowing this out of proportion because it's just $12 and they did send me a replacement. But at the same time, it's about how you treat your customers. If he had paid me the $12, it would be fine. And I wouldn't have been overcharged. And it's such a small sum to refund to a customer to make them happy, especially when you're the person who's making the mistake. And it's like, why are you even arguing with me about this? And I even told him, like, if you wanted proof about the fact that the tariff number was an issue and that I would be overcharged for this, you could have just called your local customs office and asked them. You have the tariff numbers, you have all the info about what the charges are that I've been paying and sort of overbilled with. Like, I'm providing you all the info, but you apparently don't want to believe me. And I even told him, like, if I can't convince you that this is not a scam based on all the info I've provided, I don't know how we're going to move forward from this. You're obviously not wanting to believe that this is an issue. And it's like, why would I try to scam you for $12? It's just fucking ridiculous, this guy. So yeah, that's my story about how I got this bootleg disc for Alien 3, the Legacy Cut. And that's also why I don't want you to go to Showtime Apparel and buy this, because I don't think it's worth it. I don't think they deserve your money. Instead, I think you should just go to a34k.net. You email them, you'll get a free download link to get this very high quality transfer and really cool fan edit of Alien 3. So that's a much better option. And for those of you who have a Blu-ray or DVD burner, just try to make your own physical copy, because that will feel a whole lot better than receiving this with all the crap that comes with it. But that's it. So I want to say thank you very much for watching, and as usual, hope to see you all next time.